Rod, I know you spent a few years with Eric, but I'm just wondering what your first season was like with him in this big chair.
Yeah, it was good. I think we're, we've obviously known each other for a long time, but not in this kind of capacity. So I think it's been, a learning curve for both of us. I think, we're certainly coming from different worlds and trying to mesh it, trying to understand each other. And I think that'll be an ongoing process, but I think it was good. It's good to get two different ideas and kind of mesh them, like I said, and I think we've done a good job with it.
Yeah, Eric, after the Florida series, the final game, Rod mentioned that with the losses after last year, he wasn't sure if he could make the playoffs this year. Did you, now that everything's said and done, did you share that same sentiment?
No, I mean, so Rod and I came out from a different place, right? He knows the players on this team as well as anybody in the world does. And we saw some really good players leave, and that made him nervous, right? And as someone overseeing the management staff, our job was mostly to understand the rest of the league. And I knew we were bringing in players who were going to fit and were going to be really good. And it's just, that's the difference in perspective. Like, of course, there's always a risk. You never know for sure how it's going to go. But I knew coming in, we were in position to keep taking steps forwards and was comfortable with the team we had built.
Seth Jarvis said that he re-injured his shoulder during the season, and he also said he was going to opt not to have surgery on it. What's the organizational opinion on the decision not to have surgery there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an organizational decision, it's a personal decision. It's his medical care, and, he's going to do what's best for him and the team. And, if he wants to rehab it and strengthen it and keep playing, he was very effective this year, and, optimistic that'll continue going forwards and that he'll keep helping us compete for a championship.
For both of you, what are the areas of this team that you would most like to upgrade or improve this offseason?
Yeah, so for me, I think our team is built on three things, right? We want to defend really well in our own end. We want to create turnovers off the forecheck, and we want to create offense once we get the puck back. And I think all three areas, honestly, there's room for improvement.
Not much more to add. I mean, he just said it.
Position-wise, in terms of the state of the roster and the cap space you have, are there areas that you have targeted on the roster where you'd like to improve or get better?
Yeah, I mean, there's always room for improvement, right? I've said it before, until we have the 20 best players in the league, there's still room to get better. And we're going to keep working towards that, right? Every time we see an opportunity to bring in someone who we think helps us take a step forwards, we're going to take advantage of that.
Eric, you've been a cap team pretty much in Tom's whole tenure as owner. It seems like it might actually be tough to get to the ceiling with all the cap space you have. Is that the intention, is to add? I mean, I know you don't want to be frivolous and just throw money at people, but do you feel like there's still an opportunity out there to improve your team, use all that cap space in one way or another?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're thinking about it exactly the way I am, right? People always like to say we're not going to make a move just for the sake of making a move. And of course we're not. That goes without saying. But if there's any chance to get better, we're going to take it. And, we have the full buy-in to spend to the cap if there are ways to do it to get better. We have so much space and such a strong team. There's no guarantees we can find ways to spend all that money, but we're going to spend all summer trying.
Eric, have you or will you make offers to Burns and Orloff in some combination?
Yeah, I mean, so we've talked to the agents of every free agent we have. Those conversations are ongoing. We have 4 weeks left until July 1st to try and get deals done, and we'll see how that goes.
Rod, I assume you know the answer, but we just want to make sure, is all your staff expected to return next season?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Eric, other than Seth's shoulder, is there anyone else on the roster who's going to need any off-season or considering any off-season surgery or anything coming out of the playoffs?
There are a lot of players who have things they're dealing with. I don't think we have any more surgeries slotted at this time, but there are a few people who are talking to their doctors about the best way to proceed.
Rod, there was a lot made of the lack of a participation in the handshake line at the end of, I know that's something that you always seem to kind of cherish. You've always been kind of a gracious loser, I would say. I don't want to tag loser on you, but was that hard for you, especially you kind of came out of nowhere?
Yeah, but I understood his point of view. You know, he explained it to me, and you know, I wasn't expecting it, but I understood what he said and why he. You know, it is the players. Of course it is. Those guys are the ones that are battling out there, and we're just sitting back there, you know, not along for the ride. We invested a ton into it, so I get his point that it is about the players. I guess my take on it now, as sitting back on it in reflection, like I think I look at you talk about gracious losing. I've had some pretty impactful memories and moments in that line as a coach going through, and even in this series, in this playoff round with the Devils, and I had 4 or 5 guys that were Hurricanes, and I still think of them that. And so it meant something to me to go through there and you know, shake their hand. It's not a, for me, it's not a, I'm not thinking about a TV moment. It's just, I get enough of that. Every time there's a penalty, the thing gets shot on my face. You know, so that's not in it for me. So I think moving forward, I think it's, you know, I think I'll probably go back to it just because it's a sign of respect. That's the way I look at it. You know, we're not out there on the ice battling, but we're right in there with these guys. And so that's my take. I think you're entitled to whatever one you want. He won, so I kind of went, okay, I'm going to follow your lead, you know, and that. But I do think it's important to me anyway to show respect to the players.
Eric, how do you balance the farm system that you've built and the draft capital that you've acquired with, quote unquote, going all in? How do you try to thread that needle, and are those picks only important if you're not holding the Stanley Cup, you know, sort of flags fly forever mentality?
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to win a cup, and our goal is to win more cups after that and keep going. And we're trying to build a team that can compete year after year, but competing isn't enough. We want to win. And so you got to find a way to do that. And the picks and the prospects can help us by producing players in the future. They can help us by being used in trades to bring in players who help us now. And we're open to everything. It's just a question of what the best path forward is and what opportunities we see in front of us.
Rod over here. Considering what you said last year about all the changes and being a little uncertain when it happened, I'm curious with cap space and things ahead, what are you most excited about for this offseason?
Well, you're always excited in the offseason. I know everything gets taken out of context a little bit. You know, I was worried because of what went out, and if you just say, well, we lose all those guys, and that would worry anybody, right? But then, to Eric's point, you see what we brought in, and then you had time to see what we brought in. I was like, okay, immediately, it was within a couple of weeks, we're in good shape. So, and you have to remember too, we have such a great core that didn't leave, and that's what this team has, I think, been built on, and that's why it gives you optimism moving forward. Those guys are still going to be here, and so, yeah, there's tons of opportunity, I guess, is the way I look at it. But even if none of that pans out, we still have all those guys, and they've been, in my opinion, warriors, and you know they know what it takes, and the more experience they're getting. Now we got young kids that played in this last series. That's just going to help us move forward, and they're big parts of this now. So there's a lot of optimism, regardless of what Eric can do this summer. I mean, I think that's how I look at it.
Eric, along the same lines of the young players that Rod just mentioned, are there any players in the prospect pool that you might expect to elevate? You had 4 rookies play in the playoffs. Is there anyone that you expect to possibly elevate coming up next season?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of prospects who are doing really well. The team in Chicago this year was a very, very young team, and it made the playoffs and was competitive and had streaks where it looked like one of the best teams in the league. And those players are just getting better and better. You know, there's a gap between the AHL and the NHL, and we won't know until we get to seeing them in NHL action in preseason and training camp whether they're ready, but there's a lot of players who are on that cusp.
Speaking of the minors, you adding Greensboro as an affiliate. Can you walk us through a little how that's going to work? Will you put the coaching staff there, or will they install a staff, and how excited are you to, I know that you had some goalie jumping around a little this year at the lower levels. Are you excited to have that extra, base to put some of your younger prospects?
Yeah, so we do not hire the coaching staff there. It's, they run their staff and their hockey operations. We have the opportunity and the obligation to loan them a few players to help them build out their roster and provide some players who can be call-up depth for our AHL team and also a landing spot for an occasional prospect. Goalies, as you mentioned, often, there's a limited number of nets at the NHL and AHL level, so a lot of times a goalie prospect will end up there for a bit here and there. And yeah, it's really nice to have it, sort of driving distance where we can go check in on our prospects and they can feel us and our fans can go see them. And, that is something that we enjoy and appreciate. And having an affiliate gives us a little more flexibility and control to plant some AHL depth there so that when the NHL and AHL team get hit with injuries and that lineup gets gets thin, we have players who can come up and fill that out.
For both of you, I know it's pretty obvious every team would love to have an elite scorer. Okay, every team does. To that end, Pacioretty, Gensel, Rantanen have all been real strong efforts to find that guy. It's also kind of an admission that this team needs that sort of player. Is that an ongoing thing, Rod, for you as well? I mean, you're coaching them. This team doesn't have 40 goal scorers. Is that maybe the next step, difference maker, the one guy you rely on to put the puck in the net all season long?
Well, I think to your first point, everybody would love to have them, and of course. And I think you look at, you mentioned all those names. We're going out. If they're out there, Eric's trying to get them. And I think everybody appreciates that. I think the room does. Having said that, if it doesn't, we feel really good about our group. So what he mentioned earlier, if there's a better option out there to make us better, he's trying to get it. So that's what that tells me. I think I'm speaking for you, but that's pretty much how you look at it.
Yeah, I'm 100%. And I prickle a little at the idea that it was a suggestion we needed something like, until we have all the best players in the league, we're going to keep trying to add. And it doesn't matter how many goal scorers we have. If there's a premium goal scorer out there who we can get, we're going to try and bring him in. I don't think Tampa or Dallas was looking at their team saying, we really need a goal scorer. It's just, you've got great players who you can bring in, you do it. And we're going to keep taking those swings every time we can.
Eric, defensively, feels like you guys might be in a time of transition with, last year seeing Shea and Pesci go, and then this year now more on Akishin stepping in and Orlov and Burns being aging free agents. How do you kind of view the future of the defensive position that is so key to your guys' system?
Yeah, I mean, you're right that the D is key to the way we play. And, we play a very high-pressure system where we are trying to put players under pressure and make it hard for them. And that means we're relying on the D to be able to cover for what happens behind that. And those guys need to be really good and really effective. And you're right, we lost a couple of key players last year. We have at least one rookie coming in now. And that means we're in a little bit of flux. And it's the job of the management and scouting staff to keep finding players who can play the way we want them to. And, I don't want to underestimate the job that Rod and his staff did integrating the new players. We brought in a lot of new talent and didn't miss a beat. And that's a testament to how good a job his staff did helping these guys get up to speed and learn what they needed to learn. It's a complicated system that relies on them knowing where they need to be at all times. And the fact that we were able to do that and not miss a beat, I think, is really, a strong testament to his staff.
Eric, Bradley Nadeau had a great season last year at AHL level. Is he somebody that could possibly step in next year, or would it be ideal for him maybe to have another year in the minors possibly? And could you name a couple of the prospects coming up who you feel strongly about?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm always hesitant to put pressure on any one player because it'll happen when it happens. We know he's going to be a great NHLer for a long time. I don't want anybody feeling like there's a timeline for that because development isn't linear and we don't know. But yes, he had a fantastic season. He scored a ton of goals. He'll be in the mix in camp and we'll see how it goes. I think if you had asked me this time last year to list prospects, Blake would have been on the list, but I wouldn't have told you to bet on him making the team. He had a great summer. He worked hard. He came into camp fitter than he had been before and more NHL ready than he had been. And he took off from there. And it's hard to predict who's going to take that step over the summer. But there's a lot of players who are in the mix for that.
Eric, during your evaluation of players, you look at the statistics, you do a lot of number crunching. Do you also look at the size of the player during the evaluation?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I think we're more concerned with strength than size a lot of the times. We want players who can get in and apply pressure and make it hard for you. And somebody who's tall and lanky and sort of soft doesn't add heaviness to your game, right? We want players who can really apply pressure and compete. And, that's not just about size, but obviously size helps with that. And so, I wouldn't say we're looking at size. I would say we're looking at how effective they are at applying pressure, but size is a big component of that. Obviously, you can pressure someone more if you're physically intimidating.
Over here to your right, how do you all balance not only finding talent to bring into the team, but also finding the right people that fit the culture of the team?
Yeah, that's very hard, and we want to do both. And we have a phenomenal culture here, and Rod is an incredible steward of the locker room and keeps things in the right frame of mind. And I don't want to make his job any harder than it needs to be at that. And so, we want to find players who can play and who will fit, but who will fit off the ice too and step in and, listen to what he has to say, work with him, work with the teammates, fit in well. We want it to be a fun place to play. It's something I actually am very impressed by is these guys compete so hard on the ice and they come off the ice and they have a good time together, right? And it's, that's a special atmosphere that I'm not sure every team has. And, if we can keep building that, I think it helps make us what we are.
Rod, Brent sounded like a player who wants to continue playing, would like to do it here. I'm curious, obviously he's not the player he was 10 years ago. You can't expect him to be that. He's maybe not the player he was 3 years ago. Is there still a role for him here, do you think? And can he continue to play top pairing minutes with a top pairing guy like Slavin going forward if he is here?
Well, yeah, I think no secret. I think he's phenomenal. I love the guy for a lot of reasons, not just the hockey side of things or what you see, but how he, just the way he handles himself on and off the ice. Eric talks about the group and, giving me a little bit of credit because I'm sitting here, but really it's those guys. It's Brent, it's Jordo, it's these guys that when you walk into that locker room and you see these guys do their thing at the experience they have, it just, everybody just, okay, this is how we have to do things. So he's great that way. Yeah, all that, the older you get, sure, you're going to slow down a little bit, but I think he did a great job this year. And I think, he's kind of learning too, how to change his game a little. And that's, we had the best penalty kill in the National Hockey League, and he's a big part of that. So I don't think that was something that you would say 10 years ago was up his alley, So he's figuring that out, and I can't say enough good things about him. So, where it goes, obviously there's business and all that comes into play, but I'd love to have him back.
Do you see some parallels between you two?
Yeah. Minus the beard and the tattoos and the no teeth. There is a definite, I think, I don't know, connection that we had right away just based on some of that, so there is that, but like I said, he's been everything we could have asked for. I think it was one of the better acquisitions we've made in recent memory, that's for sure. And like I said, we'll see where it goes, but he's been great for us.
Rod, for both of you, how do you evaluate, how much time do you spend, and how do you evaluate the job that you did and that the coaching staff did, and how much time do you spend reflecting on maybe what you need to do differently? And then same question for you, Eric. How do you evaluate, you obviously have to evaluate all the players. How do you evaluate what the coaching staff did and how they're doing?
You want me to go first? I think it's important. I think it's good to take a little. You always hear I got to take some time. You got to take a step back, and then because in the moment of it, you're just But you take a step back, and then you go, okay, wait a minute. What just happened? What transpired this year? And I'm like, this might have been one of the best seasons we've had in 20 years. And I look at it from all the uncertainty going into the year, and then we had some. We seem to always be. There's something going on with us, which is good. We obviously with the ranting and stuff and all the things that went on, and then getting into the playoffs and hitting our stride. And I thought we played. I don't know. We could have played much better in the first 2 rounds. And yeah, of course, we always remember the last round. We'd love to have done better. I just look at it like, okay, certainly critical of myself on things and how to get better, but I thought as a staff, we did a really good job. My staff, I can't say enough about. Always prepared. We got, Chris Huffines has to be, if not the best video coach that there's ever been. Just preparing our group, like helping, so nothing surprising us. That's good, making the adjustments we have to make. I thought dead on. So, yeah, obviously trying to find ways to get better as a group. We talk about that as a staff. But overall, I'm like, okay, we've raised the bar to a point where you lose in the semifinals, and it's disappointing. Like, I think that's pretty good. So you take a step back, and you're like, wait a minute, there's 4 teams playing left, and we're feeling like crap because we lost. Like, this is where you want to be. This is the level of, standard that you want to have as an organization. So taking all that back, that doesn't change our goal. We're talking about all the time. We're trying to get to be that best team. And I think as long as we still have that, fight in us and direction, I think then we're in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it's hard for people in the outside to understand just how hard these guys work and how much time they spend during the game, after the game, the next day, looking for opportunities to tweak what they're doing, looking at what the next opponent does and how we can take advantage. I think this staff is incredibly detail-oriented and incredibly good at, sort of finding those edges and communicating them to the players. And I think the level of buy-in that Rod and his staff get from the team is extraordinary. I genuinely don't know if there is another staff in the league that has that combination of ability to find edges and ability to get the team bought in and doing it. They've done an incredible job. And, I 100% agree with Rod on expectations. Over the last 5 years, no team in the league has more regular season points than us. Only 2 teams, Florida and Edmonton, have more postseason wins than we do. We set the bar very, very high. Like every year we expect to be at least competing for a cup, and our goal is to win 1 or more. And it's a privilege to be in a place where we can say that with a straight face. There aren't many teams that are. And, it does stink to finish and feel like you came up short. But man, what an honor to be in a team where you get to the Final Four and feel like you came up short. I love that we are where we are, and we're going to keep pushing to get to where we want to go.
Yeah, Rod, you won the cup late in your career. Just now that you're a head coach, is the hunger the same or more so to win another cup for your group to win a cup?
Yeah, it's different coaching. 'Cause I don't know if I'll always be wired this way, but I still think like a player. Like I feel like I know I'm not out there, but it's different this time around. I genuinely want it for the guys. Like I've done it. I want them to experience that for the organization, for the fans here. That last game we played here might have been the loudest I've ever heard it, where I literally could not. I was screaming, probably at the ref, but I was screaming. The guy's standing right here, and I couldn't communicate. Like it is. We want it for all these people. And at least that's how I feel. So, we do ever get one. Does that then does the hunger go away, maybe, you know, but until then, until then, it's definitely what keeps me fired up.
Eric, some ups and downs in your first year as a GM. You know, you got a lot of praise for the Rantanen trade, and then maybe a lot of criticism in the aftermath of it. I'm curious, when you look back at the whole year, how you would, you know, kind of 40,000-foot view of yourself, how would you assess the job you did and the lessons learned?
Yeah, I mean, you know, ultimately, the scorecard is the results, right? It's, you know, but I mean, look, there's always ways you could go better, right? Like, there is nobody in the world who looks back on a year of their performance in a job and is honest with themselves and say, there's nothing I could have done differently. I had a perfect year. So there's always room for improvement. But, you know, where we exited, I think we have a strong team now. I think we're well positioned to get better going forwards. You know, I'm very comfortable with where we landed. And, you know, of course, there's ups and downs. There always will be. But if we can keep taking steps forward in the big picture, we're going to get there.